Hi, my name's Lizzie. I'm an AML patient. I have been involved in two different clinical trials during my treatment. The first one, right when I was first diagnosed, was quite a large multi-center trial, which had a few kind of aims, questions that it was trying to answer. And the second one I was involved in a couple of years later, two relapses later, I was involved in a phase 1 dose-finding trial, which was much smaller, only about 30 patients on that one. And yeah, that's it really.
Hiya, I'm Hayley Ellis. So I'm one of the haematology research nurses that work at the QE in Birmingham. So I'm involved with setting up and running and delivering clinical trials to patients who've got haematological cancers within Birmingham and the surrounding areas. I've been doing this job for about 11 years now. So yeah, that's me.
So where could patients find out about clinical trials that they might be suitable for, and how can they enroll in those clinical trials?
So what I would say in the first instant, it would be that you'd have a discussion with your consultant or your CNS at the site where you're being looked after. Obviously, if it's a new diagnosis, there's a lot of information for you to take on board at first, so that can be a tricky conversation. But most of the clinical areas are quite research active, so they might ask you if you want to take part in clinical trials at that point. There are other avenues that you could also take if that hasn't been spoken to you by your clinician at site. There is something called Be Part of Research, which is run through the National Institute of Health Research. That's available to everybody to register, and you can say that you'd be interested in taking part in clinical trials, and they will look at your medical history and link you up with any of suitable clinical trials that are running. And that's not just for hematological diseases, that's for any sort of public health questions and things like that as well. And another a good resource for clinical trials is blood cancer charities and cancer research. They will have a list of clinical trials that they're supporting that are available to patients. And then there is also a website, which is an international website, which is called clinicaltrials.gov. And that you can go on there and you can fill in and say what your disease is and what issues you have and what stage you're at, where you live, and that will pull up any trials around the world that's open for you to participate on, and it will give you contact details of your nearest site that is running that study. So Lizzie, how did you hear about the clinical trial that you joined at the QE, and what motivated you to join those clinical trials?
The clinical trial that I was involved in was kind of presented to me by my doctor. I didn't have to kind of go looking for it. They had a clinical trial open at the time that I was suitable for. At that point in my treatment, I'd had two lapses, and they were at the point where they didn't have another kind of standard treatment option for me. But they had this clinical trial open, and they said, "We'd like you to enroll in this trial because it might help you to live a bit longer. And we're trying out this new combination of drugs to see if they're effective." And my motivation to join at that point was quite easy. That if I didn't join, I was definitely going to die much quicker. And if I did join, I might get a little bit more extra time to live, a few extra months, and was kind of the expectation. Luckily for me, it ended up being many more months. I'm still here now, and I've been in treatment for remission for a while. So that was the benefit was better than expected for me. But yeah, the motivation, as I said, was at best case to get a few more months of life. Worst case, I'm kind of contributing to the research, and I'm maybe helping future patients who could use the results of that trial in future treatments.
What were the key concerns or questions you had before deciding to join the clinical trial, and did these change once you'd enrolled in the trial?
So my main questions to the research nurse when I joined the trial is, People that are already on the trial, like how are they doing on it? Like is it going well for them? Um, and I kind of wanted to know like what's going to happen to me, what are my side effects going to be? Is it going to be like as bad as my previous treatments, which were pretty grueling? Um, and just after I had all the information on the patient information sheet, which I read, and then after asking all my questions, I mean, to be honest, I was going to join anyway because like it was an easy choice for me to join. I didn't really matter to me what the answers to those questions were because I was, as I said, going to join anyway. But after joining the trial, it actually, for me, it was easier than my previous treatments. So I guess my concerns before joining the trial was it going to have a good benefit for me? Was it going to actually give me those extra few months that they thought it might? And how were those extra months going to be for me? Was I going to be in a kind of constant state of fatigue? Was I going to be in any pain? But once I'd started the trial, it turned out the side effects were actually kind of worse than the ones I'd had in previous treatments. And my quality of life was pretty good. And the main kind of burden on me was getting to the hospital for a week, every 6 weeks. So actually, it turned out to be much better than I expected.
And what was your experience of side effects and hospital visits and the frequency of monitoring that you had to during the trial? Lizzie, obviously you said that you had to come quite often to the hospital.
Yeah, so my treatment was on cycles of 6 months, and I would be there having injections every day for a week, and then I would have the other 5 weeks of the cycle at home as normal. Kind of a little bit of like a recovery period from having the injections, um, from having the treatment. I guess by this point I'd got used to a kind of a new normal where I was going to be tired quite a lot of the time, and not be able to do like things that I would have done before treatment started. I wasn't at work at this point, so it was kind of normal to me to have those kind of side effects of the fatigue and kind of the aches and pains, but nothing kind of worse happened on the trial that worse than I'd had before. Um, the good thing about being on a clinical trial is you are monitored like a little bit more than you would be on standard treatments because obviously there's some questions that the researchers are trying to answer, so they need to gather data to answer those questions. So you are monitored a bit more closely. You have a few more tests, and the best thing about being on a clinical trial is your research nurse, because they're wonderful. They look after you so well, and they basically make the trial kind of easy to be in. They take care of all your appointments, all your tests, and any questions you have, and you just go straight to them. So Hayley, where could patients find out more information about clinical trials?
So in terms of finding additional information about your clinical trial that you may be wanting to participate in, obviously your clinician should give you some information at that visit. You'll be given something that's called a patient information sheet that would outline all of the information about the studying, and you'll be given contact details for a research nurse who's working on that study so that you can contact them during the time you having a think about the study at home before you actually decide that it's the right thing for you to do. There are a lot of charities around that also help. So there's a charity called Blood UK, and they run a really good service where they support patients who want to participate in clinical trials with hematological malignancies. So you can contact them, and they'll see if there's any studies available internationally for you, if there isn't anything at your home hospital that you usually go to. But also they'll help you through that period of making those decisions and advocate for you. So I think sometimes it can be a little bit daunting for patients when your clinician's telling you need to go on a study and it's not for everybody, then might not want to do that. So they can help you through that period as well, and they're even happy to attend appointments and have Teams meetings with your consultant to support you through that journey. So, but then obviously there's lots of stuff online that you can look at about participate, and the National Institute of Health Research have lots of things on their website to assist you with what it's like to take part in a clinical trial and what questions you should ask when you go to your visit. But your main point of contact for that trial will be your clinical team that are popping you on the trial. So the Hoven Clinical Trial Initiative is a European initiative which runs clinical trials across Europe and in the UK. They help set up the studies and they help get them up and running. So it's more of a collective of consultants, and medics and people that are interested in doing clinical studies. So they're a foundation. They, as well as doing clinical studies, they're looking at biomarkers and translational studies and developing disease-specific guidelines in the field of hematological diseases. They work together to bring clinicians and scientists together and function as an umbrella organisation for all haematological centres that are located in mainly, they started off in the Netherlands and Belgium, but they've spread out across Europe and into the UK now as well. They have various disease-specific working groups, including those looking at acute myeloid leukemia and acute lymphocytic leukemia, with clinical trials in both areas. We've got quite a few studies starting to open in the UK with this, with the Hoven group. And we're very excited to take part in them studies and having lots of options open to our AML and ALL patients, especially for those that their first line of treatment hasn't worked for them and they need to have something second line for relapse.
Yeah, one piece of advice I would give to patients is when either you've found a clinical trial you want to be part of, or your doctor has come and presented a trial to you and asked you if you want to enroll, you're going to get given a lot of information about the trial. You'll get a patient information sheet. I would say read everything, learn as much as you can about the trial, take it away with you, go through it with somebody else. Sometimes that can help. Write down any questions you have, because you will have an opportunity to go back to your doctor and your nurse specialist and ask them any questions that you have about the trial. Find out what's going to be happening to you, what treatments you're going to get, what the side effects might be, find out what the potential benefits might be, and find out what kind of things you'll be expected to do, what your kind of hospital schedule will be, what tests you'll be expected to take part in. And then once you've got all that information, you can weigh up the potential benefits against the potential downsides to it, maybe the side effects or the quality of life you might have while being on the trial. And then once you've got all the information, you can make a really good informed choice about whether you want to take part in the trial, because you can get advice from your doctors, you can get their opinion, but in the end, it's your choice whether you want to take part or not. So having all the information means you can make a good choice.
Yeah, I would echo what Lizzie's shared with everybody today about going away and reading that information, but also that no questions, a silly question about the trial. Obviously go away and find out what the side effects and what the treatment is and what the expectations for the patients are as well, but also like things about getting to and from your appointments at the hospital. Please ask your nurse about things like that, because generally for a lot of the studies that are run, there is help with like travel expenses, and there are ways around things. So please don't let thinking things like that are a barrier to you participating in clinical trials. Sometimes there are questions that you might not want to have with your clinician and you think that that's not the right time, but that's where your research nurse and your clinical nurse specialist will come in, and we're there to help guide you through that journey and advocate for you. But yeah, that would be my main thing. I always say to my patients, ask me anything. If you wake up in the middle of the night and think of something when you go to the toilet, email us and we'll get back to you the next day.